Tim's kinda dumb, let's help him get smart. It's time to teach Tim stuff. Hey, welcome back to Time to Teach Tim. We got Steve in the house. What are you going to be teaching us today?
Today you're going to learn about drag racing, Tim.
Nice. Now you yourself are a drag racer.
Yes, in some capacity. That is my other hobby.
Yeah. So you told me something like super interesting to start out, that you drag race a specific category.
Yeah, so I grew up drag racing Volkswagens with my family. Old Volkswagen Bugs.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, so do you do just bugs specifically?
Personally, yeah, that's what I do. But we race against other cars, like Hondas, import stuff, Mazdas, and then we race nostalgia events where there are, American muscle cars, and we're the only 4-cylinder import car there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so cool to me that there's like the subcategories that they get into. Like one of the subcategories you were showing me was so like specifically only bugs.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, like, does like a culture develop like around that? Like, do you know all the other bug racers around?
Yeah, I know pretty much everybody on the East Coast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most people know who I am, like, just casually, or I know them, like, just through social media.
Yeah.
And through
yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So.
Now, where around here can you even race?
So there were, up until a couple years ago, 3 tracks in New Jersey. There's a Island Dragway up in Hackettstown.
Right.
There's Atco Dragway down in Atco, which is down in South Jersey by Cherry Hill. And Raceway Park was in Englishtown, but that is now a junkyard.
Really?
Yeah.
That place is huge, too.
Yeah. So the track itself still exists. It's there. But they got an offer to park junk cars there that just made them more money and gave them no headaches.
Yeah.
So.
Because I can remember, a friend of mine, Eric Vecchione, shout out Eric Vecchione. I grew up with him, super into cars. He had a Honda Civic Si. Like, it was the first one with the shifter, like, off the dash that I
the
ever
up-high
saw.
shifter.
Yeah. And I can remember we took his, well, actually, I don't remember it. Substances may have been involved. But I remember going there. I don't remember in the race. I don't remember anything else. But, like, I just remember traffic on the way in. And I, like, didn't even know that it was this big of a sport. Tons of nice cars. But also, like, cars that looked like beaters.
Yeah.
And, like, everybody knew each other. And, like, I just remember kind of, like, I know nothing about this.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about it is, like, you can take whatever you drive and drive through the gate on a Wednesday night or a Friday night and sign up and race your car. Like, whatever it is that you drive, you can take down the track.
Yeah, like, so, like,
whenever.
Stock Civic.
Yeah.
You could just go.
Just go.
See what it does
Just
in a
go
quarter.
make a run. Just have a good time.
That's so cool. And, like, it seemed like that was, like, their, like, like, hell yeah, comedy night.
Yeah,
It's
like open mic night.
Yeah.
More or less. Any type of test and tune, you go up to Island on a Sunday and you can make 8 or 10 runs in an afternoon in whatever you show up with.
That's so cool. Now, like, so how far into, like, enhancements of a car? I don't even know what to call
Modifications.
Yeah.
So, like, the stuff, the car that I drive for my father from time to time it's an all-out race car.
Mm-hmm.
The front and rear suspensions have been cut off and relocated. There are no factory parts left in the engine.
Really?
Yeah. So it's pretty deep.
Yeah. Now, like, how did you get into drag racing? Like, what's the origin?
That is my father's fault.
Yeah.
Like, all the good and bad things in life, it comes from my parents.
So he was really into it?
Yeah, my father's been racing since the 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the first car that you took down a quarter mile?
The first car I ever raced was I had a 74 Volkswagen Carmen Ghia.
I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, so it's basically a bug chassis with like a much nicer body on it.
All right.
And it was dirt slow. It went like 1750s at 68 miles an hour or something. Like, it was so slow, but it was fun. And now as soon as you do it, you're hooked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Every member of my family has made it past down the drag strip.
Really?
My mother has made runs. My sister's made runs. My father and my brother both have cars.
That's fucking awesome. I've never raced a car ever.
Most people haven't.
Yeah. Even like, like I honestly, like, I get scared going fast. Like, I don't know if that's just like because I'm not really a great driver or because like I have a respect of the road, quote unquote. But
so like the faster I go, it's weird to say the faster I go, things slow down around me. It's like the world finally caught up to my brain.
Yeah.
Like my wife hates to drive with me because when I drive slow, I don't pay attention. There's just not enough happening. I'm looking over there. I'm looking down the road. As soon as we start to pick up speed, that's when I pay attention.
Yeah, when you're like plotting I got to go around this guy in here
yeah.
and then cut.
Yeah, it was bad when I rode motorcycles.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
That was problematic.
That actually seems like fun, but again, that's something where I'd be like doing like 45 on a highway, like, dude, this is so nice.
Yeah, I've actually been down the track on a bike as well.
Ooh, that's gotta be even like 10 times scarier.
Yeah, I don't even like, for some reason it doesn't bother me. It's wild. I'm more worried about when you pull up. I'm worried about executing. I have a job to do more or less, and if it's not perfect, then it doesn't go properly. So I don't have really time. You get nervous, but as soon as I start the car and close the door, everything shuts off.
Yeah,
It's over. It's like when you go on stage and you go up and you have a good set, but you like black out and you don't remember how it happened. Yeah. That's what it's like.
So it's like the performance, the flow. Like I have the same thing with hockey. Occasionally I'll get it with stand up, but where like the second my skate hits the ice, like I'm in a zone, and on a good day.
Yeah.
Bad days, I'm like thinking about like, what am I gonna eat after this?
Oh yeah.
So, where did you like find the passion for it? Was it something that your dad like passed down to you?
Yeah, I've been going to the track since I have pictures of me at the track when I was a kid, like a little kid.
Yeah.
Very small.
With the big ear thing covering.
Yeah, all that. And now my hearing is so damaged from it that I don't wear anything at any point in time when I'm at the track.
Yeah, I have the same thing because of like punk rock shows. Like people talk to me like at the bar and like the music's going on and I'm trying to like read their lips because I have no clue what.
As soon as there's background noise, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah,
there's nothing. But it's cool. Like I know people that have watched me and my brother grow up from the time that we were small children that like we race against now.
Oh, wow. So it's like a giant race family.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Because like my dad and my sister are real big NASCAR fans. So every once in a while every year when the Dover 500 comes around, they'll go down with the camper with my uncle and his kid, and I just never got into it.
Yeah.
Like it was honestly like too slow pace for me. But the thing they've told me is, you think it's slow on TV, go to the racetrack.
Yes.
Because those cars are doing 200 miles.
Yeah, just repeatedly, just past you.
Yeah.
One of the cool things, a video I didn't get a chance to send you, is watching people's reactions the first time they see like a Top Fuel dragster. Because it's not just the speed, it's the sound and the concussion from it.
Yeah.
Because they make 10,000 horsepower.
Jesus.
So they go, when they go from idling at the starting line, when they hit the throttle to leave the starting line, there's an actual concussion that goes through the whole crate. It's in your chest.
Really?
Yeah, it's wild.
So it's almost like like a strong bass kick drum, like you.
It's like being in the bass drum.
That's cool. I would like to experience that because I did watch a couple of the reaction videos and there was literally this one girl, she's like standing near the car kind of, and it takes off and it sounds like like 1,000 lions like
Yeah.
roaring at the same time, and literally she jumped out of her shoes. Like you
Yeah.
see like her shoe flying in the video.
Yeah, there's no real audio that can do it any sort of justice.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild.
Yeah. So like take me through what you're in line waiting.
So our cars don't have any sort of cooling system on them. So we tow them up to the starting line with a golf cart. So when it's our turn, they'll tell you to load up, which means you got to put your helmet on, put your fire suit on, get strapped in, strap in, get pulled around the corner, into the burnout box, which is like where you do your burnout.
Yeah. Why exactly do like every racer does the burnout before?
Yes.
Is that just to warm the tires?
Yeah.
Like,
So the tire compound, as you heat it, it gets stickier.
all right.
Yeah. So you
All
want,
right, that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a game of grip.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
You know, you're working on friction at that point. So they'll disconnect me probably 50 feet away, 20 feet away from the burnout box. Door closes. There's an external power switch. Turn the power on outside the car. Go to the dashboard. Power, fuel pump, check the gauges, hit the starter button, roll up, put the car in second gear, do the burnout, make sure the guy next to you is good. Then it's time. Then you put the car back in first gear, pull up. There's 2 lights. There's beams that go across the track, which is how they record where you are and your time.
Right,
They're photo cells.
all right. So like kind of like a laser tripwire for like a
Yes.
garage. So it's sensing whether you're there or not.
Yeah. So then it's called the Christmas tree, the lights
Yeah.
that you leave off of. You pull in, and the top 2 yellow bulbs light. That's pre-staged. Courtesy is you wait for the person next to you to pre-stage as well before you go in. So then you roll forward another 6 inches. That lights the bottom bulb. Once their bottom bulb is on, I will have my thumb on the button on the steering wheel, which controls the RPMs that the car leaves at.
All right.
So like say the car I want it to leave at 7,000 RPM, but the car revs to 8,000.
Oh, so it's like a limiter.
Yeah. So hold finger on the button on the limiter, foot on the floor, clutch on the floor. Depending on what type of racing we're doing, the tree comes down differently.
Yeah. So I read a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Now, so I didn't really understand it though. So yeah, walk us through.
All right. So if you're
through
going to
that.
race heads up, which is just first one to the finish line, all 3 yellow lights in the middle blink at once, and then the green light comes on. If you're bracket racing, which means that you're getting a staggered start based on how fast your car is, they will come down in succession. So blink, blink, blink. Your goal is to leave on the 3rd yellow. If you wait for green, you're late.
Really?
Every time. It's guaranteed.
So is that just because of the process that it takes to?
Yeah. By the time your foot comes off the clutch, by the time the car actually moves.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's crazy. You want to start before the start.
Yeah. It's 0.4 of a second on what's called a pro tree. When they all blink at once, it's 0.4 of a second from the time that they blink to the green light. So they measure your reaction time. 0.000 is perfect. If you're under 0.50, you're good.
All right.
Anything over a 0.1, you're dead late.
So anything,
if it takes you 1/10 of a second to react, you're late already.
that's so insane. Well, that's most sports. Like that's like hitting the baseball, stopping the puck. That's
Yeah.
reacting to the snap of a football.
Yeah. You have to be ready instantly. So in the car that I drive, fingers on the button, foot's on the floor, both feet are on the floor. As soon as I see yellow, finger comes off the button, clutch comes off the floor, and you're going. Then you're looking at the tachometer for your shift light, because there's a light that tells you when to shift, so that you don't have to watch the needle.
So you can kind of
You can focus on driving.
Yeah.
See the light, hit the clutch, grab a gear. In that car that I showed you the video of, I'm in fourth gear, probably 600 feet down the track,
Really?
out of 1,320 feet.
Yeah.
So it's in fourth gear and 600 feet, and then I'm just driving.
And you're going through one, two, three, four.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much I mean, that's got to be 600 feet. How fast are you down the track?
So in the eighth mile, which is 660 feet, 6.7 seconds at like 101,
Wow. So
100, 101.
you're pretty much shifting straight through that.
Yeah. And then everything calms down after that. You know.
That's crazy. Like, the thing that I don't think people realize that is the physical activity that actually happens inside that. Most people think car, you hit the gas, you go.
Yeah.
Like the shifting, the timing, like it's almost an art in itself.
Oh yeah. My father is a machine. He shifts in people tell me like your father is one of the best shifters and it's been that way for years. And he taught me how to drive. And he doesn't use the shift light. He doesn't use any of the technology. Like all the technology that's in his car, we brought in a modern era because he doesn't use any of it. He would just launch the car at whatever RPM he thought felt good. Like shift it when he wants. He still shifts it when he wants to. You know, and he does good at that. I tried to apply more science technology to it.
That's got to be like the people always talk about the feel of the car on the road.
Yeah.
You know, especially with the types of suspensions you guys use, you're feeling like if there was a rock in there wouldn't be, but if there was, you would feel it.
You feel every bump.
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with also in that car for the first 60 feet, the front wheels aren't on the ground. So you're laid back on the wheelie bars, and a lot of times you have to grab second gear with the front wheels in the air.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be
And that's if it's
such a
going well.
rush.
That's if it's going well.
Yeah.
Then like you have to worry about, did the car spin the tires? Did it not actually have traction when you left the starting line? Because then if you shift when the light comes on, because of the wheel speed, because they're still spinning, the engine will actually bog down because you're not going fast enough to get into the next gear. So you got to hold it and let it just bang off the rev limiter for a second to catch up to the speed before you can shift it.
Yeah. Knowing how to do that's got to all just come from experience of races and races and races.
Yeah, just time.
Yeah.
Just time.
Yeah. That's the one thing I'm learning about, like, any physical or sports or even some of the mental activities that, like, it's all just that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours.
It's just repetition.
Yeah.
You know? And that's just the level that we're at with what we do. Like I have friends that also race Volkswagens that have cars that make 700 horsepower more than our car.
That's the equivalent of a fast car.
Yes.
700.
Yeah. You know, and I watched the in-car video of him, and it's just he's got enough time in the car where he's just calm, just click, click, grabbing gears, looking around, checking, you know, it's comfort.
Now, those shifters, those aren't typical, like, when you think of a shifter in a car, right? Like, there's like a mechanism.
So we've got two different styles of shifters in the two cars in the family. My father's car is a regular H pattern shifter, like standard. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, third's over there, fourth is down there.
Yeah.
So it's harder. It's easier to mess up a shift in that car because you have to reach for third. You know, and then pull it back down. The car that my brother has an inline shifter in it, so it's just you push it back and forth.
All right.
It's just straight back and forth.
Similar to like a paddle idea.
Yeah. It's just on a lever. Yeah. And that car's being set up to be shifted with no clutch now. So like you just launch the car and then shift when you see the light.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's like a combination automatic manual?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's great. I did not know that existed.
Yeah, it's a wild thing. And then so there's manual transmissions like that, clutch cars. And then there are a lot of the faster cars, like the drag radial cars that I sent you the videos of.
Yeah.
Those all have automatic transmissions in them, meaning they have a torque converter instead of a clutch. But they still have to be shifted Most of them. Some of them have electric shifters on them. They're on timers. They're on solenoids, and there's actually a ram that just bumps the shifter on a timer. Yeah, I worked on a car that was set up like that for a while.
Now, like, what's the typical? Because like that's gotta wear and tear. Like all this power is on metal.
Yes.
It's gotta fucking wear on that metal. Like,
Yeah.
what's
So
the average lifetime of?
we're good for about a season, which is going to be 80 to 120 runs before everything gets torn down and checked out. I actually blew the old man's car up last year because we went way, way over on maintenance. Like the engine builder was with us, and he was like, this shouldn't be alive anymore." He's like, "Let's just see. It should work. It might not work." And then the valve springs were weak, and then valve touched the piston, and then $8,000 later, the car is still not done.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, that's like boat money. That's like
Oh yeah.
about another 1,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I mean, the thing that's kind of cool about like aftermarket stuff though is not only you need money, but you don't need the type of money you used to need. Like when NASCAR and drag racing first started, it was the bootleggers trying to get faster, but also they had the money from bootlegging
Yeah.
to put
do
into
the research and
cars.
development.
Yeah.
The parts are better now. You just buy better stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not as expensive as it once was because there are levels.
Yeah.
We're very small time in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
We got a pickup truck, just a regular trailer, and a car that you could probably duplicate for 35 grand.
Oh, like a Civic, pretty much.
Yeah.
Is going for around there.
Yeah. But then I ran a Mustang with a friend of mine. I worked on it, and we traveled the country, and that car had to replicate it probably 2.25 to replicate it. Yeah, and then you've got travel expenses because you're chasing people around. You're chasing a series around. So we'd be in Illinois, and then the next month we'd be in Mississippi, and then we're going to Florida. So you're looking at $2,000 a trip, plus if you break something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus, and because you got to ship it to wherever you are.
Yeah, no, but and then the time off of work because you got to drive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like, and not only do you have to drive a trailer
Yes.
because you can't drive these cars.
No.
Can you imagine, like, oh, well, we got to go to Florida. Let's take the drag.
Well, that's a wild thing that actually exists. Is there's a thing called Drag Week, where people take race cars more or less that are as street legal as they can be, and they drive from track to track, 5 tracks, 5 days.
Oh, so it's like what are those beer when people go to bar? It's like a bar
Yeah,
hop,
like a poker run.
Yeah,
Almost,
yeah.
yeah. But with drag racing, and you get 3 runs at each track to try and do the best that you can, and then you get back on the road, and you're basically a lot of them are full blown race cars. They just made the first 5-second quarter-mile pass for a street car last year. So a guy named Tom Bailey, it went like 590 something, probably 210 and change, give or take. I don't remember the exact numbers. And he drove that car 1,000 miles that week.
That was during this week.
Yeah, during the event.
Yeah, that's crazy that it can do both.
It's the technology, like modern technology is wild. If you would have said that to me when I was a kid, I would have probably tried to check you in. Like there was no way. Yeah.
You sent me a video too. So, all right, actually, this is something I want to get into. The different classifications that are based on 1 wheel and then 2 gasoline.
Yeah. So they try to use a tire as a limiting factor for how fast you can go. So for a while that idea was great, but now tire technology and track preparation technology have gotten so good that on a 315 millimeter wide tire, they call it 315 Pro. Mickey Thompson makes it, which is about that wide. They are going in the 1/8 mile 3.5 seconds. Some people are going 210 miles an hour. No wheelie bars, 12-inch wide tire.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, so they base it only on back tire?
Yeah. Yeah. Front tires are, you can do whatever. But then within those classes, the engine combination depends on how much you weigh. So if you've got twin turbos, the car's got to weigh 3,200 pounds. But if it's twin turbo small block instead of a big block, it's got to weigh 3,000 pounds. You get 200 pounds off. But then if you have a nitrous engine, I think nitrous in that class is like 2,300 pounds they can weigh.
That's still like almost nothing for these cars.
No, I mean, everything's, purpose built titanium, carbon fiber.
Yeah.
It's, those cars to build, you could buy one for like 2.25 built and tested.
But that's not fun.
No, I mean, it is though.
Well, yeah. But like a lot of it's got to be, the building of it. All right, like, because I know, like, even with anything I do, like when I'm like upgrading my setup, like that's where I'm like, ooh, I want to buy this and I want to buy that, and ooh, this will work with that, and like I can only imagine what it's like in this scenario, because there's every little thing can increase your time by like just that little bit, and
Yeah,
like
everything matters.
yeah,
Like on that beige car, the Volkswagen, there are shims in the clutch, and if you take they're probably that big, they're like a small washer. If you pull a washer out, it tightens the clutch up, and if you go too far, the car's going to spin the tire, it's going to wheelie, and that's just, you took not even a 1/16 of an inch of a shim out of the clutch.
That's how is that all experience? How do you know?
We rely very heavily on the guy that does our engine building to help us tune the car.
All right.
It's always Ask Joe. There's no we've gone beyond a level, especially for my father, where he doesn't really understand his own car anymore.
Really?
Yeah, he's 67. Like, it's got all types of new technology. The clutch is a slipper clutch, so when you let go of the clutch, it doesn't just grab. It kind of is timed with how it slides itself out, almost like you would leave a traffic light in a manual car where you slip it instead of just dropping the clutch, and that all happens automatically.
That's just technology, like where, like, so there's got to be money in drag racing, that if they're able to make all these advancements, right?
Yeah, there's money in selling drag racing parts. There's very little money in drag racing. Well, that's actually not true anymore. For most people, there's no money in drag racing as a hobby. It's like basically you throw money at the ground. You could burn money. It would be just as efficient. But they run, there's $1 million drag race. They do at least one a year now. Big money bracket racing, which is with the head starts. Mm-hmm. Those guys run for between 10 and 50 grand a weekend for the winner.
See,
which is that's pretty good.
Bad.
That's pretty, but
that's one person gets it.
One guy gets it, and there are 500 cars on the property trying to get that money.
Jesus.
Yeah, and some of those things are $1,000, $2,000 entry fee.
Yeah, so
and a week away from home.
Yeah. Oh my God. So this is like pretty much just passion then.
Yeah, it's because we like doing it.
Yeah. It's got to be the thrill of well, I guess seeing yellow, not even seeing green.
Yeah,
that's got to be like that moment. Working for months, pretty much, just for that's got to feel so good.
Yeah. We've been waiting for parts for my father's car. It's March of last year, just waiting, and then eventually we're probably 5 or 6 months out from having that car back together. But once it's back together, it's all that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Then it's just waiting to see
a year and a half of aggravation for on a quarter-mile pass, like 10.5 seconds of fun.
Yeah.
Give or take. It's ridiculous because the more money you spend and the better you get at it, the less time you spend doing it.
The less fun you have.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, more
it's more
fun probably.
Yeah, but there's so much less time.
Yeah.
You know, like if you start out in a 14-second car, like a street car, your average Camaro or whatever. Well, now a new Camaro will run 12s from the factory.
Yeah.
They're quick. But then you spend 10 grand on it, and now it's a 10-second car. So you spent $10,000 to do what you love for 2 less seconds.
Yeah. But so like 10 grand to take 2 seconds off, that would be considered like a bargain.
That is
pretty much.
yeah. The modern performance cars are stupid with how quick they are and how quick they can be, and just maintain their drivability. There are guys that drive around in 1,500 horsepower cars, just daily drive them like it's nothing.
Yeah, it's insane. I would be so worried, not with my driving, but with everybody else's driving.
Yes. Yeah, it's like riding a motorcycle. You have to worry about everyone around you
Yeah.
all the time.
Second podcast in a row, my stomach's like, it's probably not picking up, but whatever. So there's a switch. It's always been a quarter mile to me. Like
Yes.
whenever I thought about drag racing. Now there's two, like I guess new, or has like eighth of a mile always been a thing?
So eighth mile was a southern thing for a long time. I don't really know why, because it's not like they have less land.
Yeah.
But a lot of tracks in the South are built as eighth mile tracks. And then there's the fuel cars now, Top Fuel and Funny Car. They run 1,000 foot because they basically got so fast that there was not enough room to stop them.
Really?
Yeah. There was an incident at Englishtown a while back that caused this switch where a guy had the throttle stick at the end of a run, and he hit a boom truck for ESPN that happened to be there at the end of the track, and he got killed. And that's when they said there's not enough room to stop the cars, more or less.
Yeah.
So the sanctioning body, the NHRA, said we're going to cut all fuel cars down to 1,000 foot, and that's just to give them the extra 320 feet to stop.
All right. See, like, it's funny to me. I didn't even know that was longer. I thought it was shorter.
Yeah. So quarter miles, 1320. They run 1,000 foot now to get the extra stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I saw a lot of tracks with like sand pits, like
Yes.
what you would see like in like the runoff roads on mountains.
Yeah. That's where if you take a trip to the beach on a day at the track, you had a bad day.
So that's like worst case scenario. That's not standard to like.
Yeah, and I've been to tracks that don't have a sand pit. We were in Holly Springs, Mississippi, with my buddy's Mustang. And the end of it was a short shutdown, so you had to be on the parachute as soon as you crossed the finish line, and then it went uphill into a cul-de-sac, and the two cars had to cross each other and then come back down to get off the track. But if you couldn't stop, there were 2 telephone poles, and you had to shoot the gap between the 2 telephone poles and go into a field.
Let's make this as dangerous as possible.
Oh, yeah.
If something goes wrong.
Yeah, I know a guy that went off the end of a track, little outlaw track in Manassas, Virginia, that is no longer there. It's condos now. But when he went off the end of the track there was a dirt pile and then trees. And he's got pictures of his car, the whole front suspension just wrapped around a tree.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And was that like a $200,000?
It's a very, very nice car. It's beautifully finished.
Ooh.
Yeah. He got it back together. Runs good now. But
Oh, all right.
yeah.
Now you mentioned it's an outlaw track.
Yeah.
Is this something that has like a big underground to it, or is this more regulated?
It is very regulated, but there are unsanctioned tracks. There's basically 2 sanctioning bodies in the United States, IHRA and NHRA. Mm-hmm. And if you're a member track, the track has to fit certain standards. It has to be a certain width, it has to have a certain style of barrier, it has to have a certain amount of shutdown. They have safety standards. An outlaw track, like there's a place called George Ray's Wildcat Drag Strip, and it's just this old man named George that owns a drag strip, and it's not sanctioned by anyone, and it's narrow, and there's no guardrails. Like, it's just a free-for-all.
It's just like, I guess, old school.
Yes, it's the way that it used to be,
Yeah, yeah,
which is cool to see.
yeah.
You know, it's
Now,
definitely fun.
so something that seems like pure adrenaline, testosterone to me, and now has so much regulation around it because of like maybe for good reason, you know.
Yeah,
But like, it's just got to be such a delicate balance for like the NHRA or the IRHA,
the IHRA.
IHRA, to like, all right, how can we keep people safe, but also produce one the most entertaining and two the fastest? Like, because you can go so fast that you literally just die.
I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but the problem is, the impact.
yeah,
Impacts
yeah.
road. So there are very strict safety regulations in place for the car itself. Seatbelts are only good for 2 years. They expire.
Really?
Yes. Your
That-
seatbelts go bad. And you
Sure.
have to you have to send them out to get recertified or buy new belts every 2 years. Helmets have to be within a certain number of years old. The faster you go, the safer, in theory, it gets. The amount of roll cage in the car increases the faster you go. And they have certifications for that everything's built by guidelines. The way that your seat is mounted is based on guidelines. Where the battery is and the way that the battery is held down is regulated. There are shields and engine diapers, and all that stuff is regulated. So if you blow the motor in the car, you don't wind up with oil all over the track.
Yeah, because that would
And
be like
it's not fun.
night over.
It's not
maybe
fun.
week over.
Yeah, well, so the track cleaning equipment has gotten good enough that you could just basically split a motor in half and oil a track, and it's going to take an hour or two to get it back together, but they can get the surface back to being totally fine
That's great.
in the same day.
I can't get oil out of t-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. There's oil in this T-shirt that I'm wearing right now, and they get it off of asphalt and then re-prepped and make it sticky again.
Yeah. So that's what amazes me is if there's not a whole lot of money in this, well, I guess just for the parts companies, is that these advancements over the last 10, 15 years, like in, track conditioning, in, well, obviously the cars, but also like the safety of it, that it's all happened so fast. Because normally if there's money in something, that's when things,
Yeah.
advance. Like,
Yeah, it's just real people trying to be safe, and people like it's a relentless pursuit to try to go faster.
yeah.
A tenth of a second is gold at a certain level.
Yeah.
So there's a class they're running in Florida today actually, and a guy just broke a record, class called Pro 275. They run a 10.5-inch wide radial tire. They look like stock street cars more or less. They make 3,000 horsepower.
Is that like the two-door classification?
Yeah, so they call anything with doors is considered a door car.
All right.
It's like an offshoot of street racing, more or less. So they look like stock appearing cars, but they make 3,000 horsepower, and they were eighth mile. They just reset the record last night, 372 at right around 200 miles an hour. So 0 to 200 miles an hour in 3.72 seconds. Now, they said when he broke the record last night, they said he shattered the record. It was mind blowing that he went a 72. The old record was a 74.
The-
200ths of a second is
Yeah.
earth shattering at that level.
oh, so that's not even tenths. That's hundreds.
Hundredths of a second.
Well, I guess eventually you get so fast where like that hundredth of a second, if you were to take over distance, would
Oh,
be
yeah.
like a crazy long distance.
At that speed, 200ths is probably 10 feet.
Yeah.
If you got a 200ths margin of victory,
yeah. But
it's
it-
like half a fender,
yeah.
maybe a nose, if that.
But if you're a person running, that's like then two body lengths running.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I mean, I've seen races decided by under an inch.
Yeah. And that's
Total.
going back to that the laser technology. I don't know
Yeah.
what is that called?
It's
Or
they're photo cells. So there's just a beam of light, more or less, like a laser, but not a laser, that comes across the track, and when the car crosses through it, it records the time.
Yeah.
When you leave the starting line, it starts the timer, and then they record you at 60 feet, 330 feet, 660 feet, eighth mile, 1,000 foot, and quarter mile if you're running quarter mile.
Yeah.
So you get your incremental time so you can see where the car is consistent, where it picked up, all that stuff. And then the finish line speed is not actually the true speed. It's an average laid out. I think they're 15 or 20 feet apart, the blocks at the end. So you go through the first one, and then you go through the second block, and that time that it takes you to travel through there calculates your speed.
So when you see the speed up on the scoreboard,
Yeah.
That's an average.
It's like a calculated, because it took you this amount of time to go from A to B at the finish line.
All right.
Because there's no radar
Yeah.
involved in it. That's just the technology that they invented. So that 338 miles an hour that they record for a fuel car is probably over 340 in actuality.
Because so most cars are accelerating up until the end.
Yeah.
So that's got to be like a timing thing where you're also figuring out how can we get this car to like not only accelerate off the start, but like in second, third.
Oh yeah, it's got to
fourth.
pull. It's got to pull all the way through.
Yeah.
Ideally, you stop accelerating like 5 feet after the finish line.
Yeah.
In a perfect world. And you know that's all done by gear ratios and the transmission and the rear axle ratio, tire size. It all plays a part in it.
Yeah. That's another thing that I think is interesting about drag racing. There's so much math and science involved in something that just seems like, go fast.
And it's all like just a lot of guys like me. Like up until recently, there weren't engineers. Like it was just guys that started doing it and figured it out. You know, now people have engineering degrees, at the top level.
Yeah.
But,
Now, does your passion for drag racing like transfer into Are you a NASCAR fan?
I'll watch it. I like the local circle track, the short track stuff.
Okay.
Like there's a track down in Wall Township. I'll go watch that sometimes. There's a dirt track in Bridgeport. Now that's all fun to watch. Because like the NASCAR stuff on the big speedways, it does get boring. It goes for a long time, and I'm a drag racer. I don't have the attention span.
More just now.
Yeah, but you go to like a local short track and it's 15 laps. The cars are all on top of each other. There's action constantly. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'm into that, yeah. I am into pretty much all forms of motorsports.
Yeah.
More or less. But drag racing is that's my lane.
Yeah. I get it. Because, like, there's got to be nothing better than that. One, I guess, seeing the yellow, being in that car. But also, like, then you're hanging around, seeing your friend, like, best his time.
Yeah.
Seeing, like, cars that, like, people you said, growing up with.
Yeah.
Seeing them set a new best for themselves. And then,
like my dad. Most of the time, I'm not in the car. He drives it. It's his car. He drives it most of the time. Yeah. And I get to watch him do well. I get to the finish line because now I have to drive down and pick him up.
Yeah.
And the golf cart goes 10 miles an hour. So after you finish a run, you sit down there for a couple minutes by yourself. And if it went well, you get down, show up and people are freaking out. They're having a good time.
Yeah.
And when it goes poorly, that's a long ride to the finish line.
Yeah.
You have to send like a mediator down. You have to send the one person that's good at dealing with the person. Like, it's not good down there. You go. I'm going to walk back to the trailer. You go get him.
Yeah. It's like when after bombing and someone's like, "Hey, nice," and you're like, you.
Just
get out of here.
I'm going outside. See you guys in 10 minutes.
Oh, jeez, that's so cool. Like that, it's real cool that you and your dad have that together.
Yeah.
I've been trying to find something that me and my dad have. Like, we're gonna actually build a nice little setup down here so we can mount the mics a little better, so we don't have to worry about like touching the table. Right. But like, I'm jealous a little bit of that. That's cool that you have that.
Yeah, and there's been a part of my life where like that was all that there was.
Yeah.
We didn't talk, but on Saturday you get in the truck.
Yeah.
And we're going racing. And we're going to be together for that time. And then I could go just basically be a fuck up for the rest of my life. And then 2 weeks, be at the house at 6, we're going out. And
It's like a home base.
Yeah, it's fun.
Hmm.
And then, like we keep everything at my brother's house now. So like I get to go, we'll go work on the car, but my brother's there, my nieces are there, and my sister will bring her kids, and my kids will be there, and the kids all play, and we'll work on the cars and hang out, and
Yeah.
so that's fun.
Oh, that's like such a nice Norman Rockwell
It
image
really,
it just set in my head.
yeah. Until you start the car and all the kids run away, and dogs are freaking out, the neighbors are yelling.
Yeah. Well, so how has Corona affected racing really? Because it seems like an isolated thing. Has there been?
So a lot of stuff did get shut down.
Yeah.
And then you basically go where you can to go racing. Like, oh, we can't race in Jersey because of the restrictions on outdoor. This is not an outdoor gathering.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but like we're on 60 acres.
Yeah.
There's 300 people. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like we're spread out. We get together at the starting line, and then we all go back to our own trucks and trailers.
Yeah. And you're not doing it like for the most part. Is it a daytime or a nighttime thing?
We run both.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can run into the night.
Is it better to run during the day because the track is hotter?
No, you want to run at night
Oh.
because the air gets better at night.
Ah.
Yeah. So the air density plays a huge part in how the car runs. And colder air is more dense air. So when it's 100 degrees out with 90% humidity, the car runs like shit. And then the track can actually get greasy because the oil starts to come out of the rubber that's on the ground. And so the track conditions go to shit. But then once the sun goes down,
then
that's when the magic happens. I mean, so like I know about corrected density altitude because of drag racing.
See, physics pretty much.
Like, I know that I've been in, like, if you want, like, good air is like under 500 feet above sea level. So even if the track is at sea level, the air density can be below sea level based on the barometric pressure and the temperature, water grains in the air and stuff like that. So I've seen air like 1,000 feet below sea level is what they would compare it to, because the farther down you go, the more dense the air gets.
Yeah.
So
That's
you see stuff like that, and
now
things
does
are going
that
to get good.
that's all because of combustion then, right? That's like the denser the air, the better the combustion.
Yeah, the more oxygen that's in it.
Yeah.
Dense air has more oxygen, and it burns better.
Are there
Makes more power, and you will have to make adjustments and corrections to the car to compensate for that.
Wow, so if it's like a really humid day, like the engineer's like, what am I gonna do? I gotta
Yeah, so we'll if it's really hot, we'll pull a little bit of fuel out of it. The amount of fuel that goes in the engine, we'll pull a little bit out, or you try and go up a little bit bigger with the air to try and get some more air in. And then if you get to those good conditions, you're adding fuel to the car over what you would normally have in it. So the amount of fuel that actually gets into the engine, you increase because the air is more dense. So it'll break stuff.
because it's
It'll
just so
lean
powerful.
it'll lean the engine out because the air fuel ratio has to be correct. So if you get into really good air and you got a hot weather setup in the car, it might not run. It'll run, but it's not going to run good.
Yeah.
And you might burn something up.
Wow. So on pretty much then on any day, like if cars are comparable in their speed, like average, on a good day with a good engineer and a good reaction time, anyone can win,
Yes.
technically.
Yeah. And there are guys that make their living. Like, they got this race in Florida today. There are guys that are there who are just tuning cars. And they're tuning 10 cars, 15, 20 cars on the property. And that's their job. They show up with their laptop, because all that stuff's computerized at this point.
Yeah.
They show up with their laptops. They go to guy number one, look at the setup on the car, make the changes. Go to guy number two, look at the setup on the car, make the changes. And that's their whole thing.
Yeah.
Guys make very good livings doing that.
That's got to be fun too, like just the characters you meet doing that. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. I've met a couple very interesting people at the track.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So it seemed to me that like drag racing would be money equals win. but that's not necessarily
It's
the case.
No, you can
at
be
all.
you. I've seen underfunded teams do well, and the thing is, like financially, there's a lane for everyone, more or less. There's a lane for like a plumber that can just put some money into a car and go race it and have fun. Or I just saw a guy that ran Top Fuel recently. I just saw for some reason his house listed for sale in Florida, $37 million for his house. It's got parking for a mega yacht, 25-car garage. Like that's that level.
Yeah.
But there's some guy with like much less in his setup that can go run with him if he's smart enough.
Yeah.
Put the right people together, get the right parts, and just pray.
Yeah.
Might be able to go out and get around one every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, to me, in my head, when you said drag racing, the car I thought of was that dark car, tiny wheels in the front, giant
Yep.
wheels in the back.
Yeah, typical dragster.
Now, is that like a Top Fuel car? Like, what are those cars?
So they're called dragsters. That's what an
All right.
actual dragster is.
All right.
Top Fuel dragster, 300-inch wheelbase, 10,000 horsepower, just ridiculous amounts of downforce from the wings. They go 330 miles an hour.
That's insane.
Yeah,
And they're getting up to that in like 3 seconds.
3.6 seconds
Jesus.
and 1,000 feet.
You were saying it before, like we were talking, that's like 8 Gs almost.
Yeah,
It's-
eight. I think they might be over 8 Gs at the hit right now.
That's like rocket ship.
Yeah, it's way like they accelerate way harder than the space shuttle.
Really?
Yeah, by a significant amount.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But then with dragsters, there are guys that just have regular dragsters with, a regular racing at a regular big block, small block, and it makes 700-800 horsepower, 220 to 245-inch wheelbase, give or take. And they just run every weekend. Those are the guys that are out running the $1 million drag race,
All right.
mostly,
Yeah.
doing the bracket racing.
Yeah.
But then they have them for kids too.
Really?
Yeah, they're called junior dragsters. You can start when you're 5.
What?
Yeah, they're technically like half scale, and they've got basically stupid, like very well built lawnmower engines on them.
Yeah.
Is more or less what they are.
That's got to be fun as hell for the kids.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
There's a ton of money in them now.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's guys showing up with like $250,000 motorhomes with 2 junior dragsters in it. Like you spent $250,000 on a truck and trailer, and then spent 20 grand on each car for your kid.
I see. I don't think I could ever have the money to have kids. I can't afford kids.
That's not. I can't afford kids, and I have them. My kids are not getting junior dragsters.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
have one. My kids aren't going to have one. That's just sorry. We'll get a go kart. We'll go play around, and we'll have fun like that.
Yeah.
But
Get a weed whacker engine on it.
yeah, like we're not going to spend 20 grand on a car for you.
Oh, I couldn't imagine just like dedicating that much of your life to a kid. I don't.
It's a wild thing to do.
Yeah. It's got to, I mean, for the kid, that's got to be like the most incredible experience.
Oh yeah.
Because like riding my bike felt great as a kid. Could you
Yeah, it's
imagine going down the? How old were you when you did your first race?
17.
All right, so like you
Yeah.
had your license.
Yeah, I
and-
had an actual license.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, these kids are 5. And they're going, the 5-year-olds are going like 35, 40 miles
Yeah,
an hour.
it's
They run
more-
8th mile.
Yeah.
The bigger kids are going, I think they're capped at 80.
All right.
So they run the 8th mile in like 7.9 seconds at right around 80 miles an hour.
Still,
Which
though,
is
like-
still like a lot of people's Camaros don't run that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That is very cool. So, like, what are stock cars doing it on like an 1/8 or a 1/4 mile? Let's say like a stock racing car, like a Camaro.
So like a new Camaro or a new Mustang GT will probably they'll go high 12s if you can get it to hook up, if you can get traction.
And that's on a 1/4?
Yeah, that's a 1/4 mile.
All right.
And then from there, shit just goes,
Yeah.
shit gets chaotic.
Yeah.
Buy a set of tires. Now you got a good set of tires on the car, but you broke and I actually broke a drive shaft or something. Now you upgrade that, but now I upgraded that, so now I might as well make more power because I'm not going to break that again.
Yeah.
And it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I love getting into minutia of things like for me as like a hockey goalie, one of the things is weight of your pads. And there's
Yeah.
all this technology of like, oh, this is a stronger, stiffer core, but it's an eighth of an ounce lighter, and it's like, oh, I need that, an eighth of an ounce. You kidding me? Like,
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, we actually just added a bunch of weight back into my father's car to make it safer. It's got some extra bars in it now,
yeah,
tighten things up in case of an accident.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's so like in the safety aspect of it, so much goes into you. I don't know how to say it. Just like not only protecting the driver, but also like protecting the crowd. And like the outside switch, I found was a
Yeah.
thing. There was a car fire.
Yeah, and so the safety crew can run up and kill the power because the way that a lot of the fuel pumps run they're electronic.
Yeah.
So if you kill the power, you stop the fuel from pumping.
All right.
It's very helpful
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some nasty, nasty fires.
Yeah.
That's worst case scenario.
Well, that fuel is pretty much jet fuel.
There's 3 different kinds of fuel. You're gonna run high octane leaded race fuel more or less, which goes up to like 116, 118 octane.
So that's above what you can get at like a normal gas station,
Yeah.
right?
Pump gas is 94.
94.
94. So you're looking at like you're gonna spend about for a good can of 116 is gonna run you $90 to $100 for 5 gallons. Yeah.
But like also it's super clean. It's,
Oh yeah, it allows you to run a lot of compression, the compression ratio on the engine, without detonating, and then you can run boost like turbos, superchargers. You can run a lot of nitrous oxide when you have good fuel like that.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a car that's on 110, you can run 10 pounds of boost for your combination, give or take, just spitball numbers. But then if you put 116 in it, you can adjust the timing and run 25 pounds of boost.
And the boost is what's coming off the turbo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right. Which is
Like those are just very generic numbers,
Yeah.
but that's just to give you an idea of what it would allow. And then there's methanol, which is an alcohol-based fuel. That's like the next step up. Basically, what you want is you want fuel to be, at that point, the methanol is more dense. You can throw more of it into the car, and the more fuel you can put in the car without it causing a detonation problem, the more power you can make. So you can dump a bunch more fuel in it.
Yeah. But
And
you
then-
also have to dump more oxygen in order to
to compensate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's nitromethane, which is top fuel stuff, which is fuel that you can't burn.
That just sounds so fucking deadly. Nitromethane.
Yeah. That's what the dude used to the Oklahoma City bomber. Actually,
Really?
yeah, he had drums of that.
Oh my god.
So that you cannot, if you put a match to it, it won't light. But if you smack it with a hammer, like pour a puddle on the ground, smack it with a hammer, it'll blow the hammer up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how does that work?
Just the burn rate and the combustibility of it. You have to compress it.
In order
In
for
or-
it to
you
ignite.
have to compress it and then hit it with the spark to ignite it.
So it's almost like a rubber substance where it's when it's compressed, that's when it's most explosive.
Yes. Yeah, it gets very dangerous. I mean, and then, back in the 60s, they played with hydrazine, which that just blows stuff up and gives you cancer. But
Oh.
it makes tremendous amounts of horsepower.
Well, then isn't it worth it?
Yeah, I think you're federally not allowed to have it anymore.
The regulation that's all I think really good, but I feel like there also should be just a place where it's controlled, but you're just trying to create the fastest thing possible. Is there like not an underground, but like some kind of team just trying to make not even a car at that point, just like something that can go as fast as possible?
Not anymore.
But there
'cause
used to
there's
be.
yeah, there's nowhere. So the overall, actually, I wrote this down for this because
right,
the
yeah.
numbers are ridiculous. but the actual all-time quarter mile record, so not 1,000 feet, quarter mile,
Yeah.
is 3.58 seconds at 386 miles an hour.
So that's you were saying that's pretty much the 8th-mile record
It's
now,
it's
almost
the 1,000-foot record.
1,000-foot record.
Yeah. The 1,000-foot record is 362. The quarter mile record, overall, no regulations, is 358. And that was done in Australia with a rocket car. Yeah, that did not have a combustion engine. That was hydrogen peroxide rocket.
Hydrogen peroxide,
Yeah.
really? I know it. Hydrogen peroxide burns, but I wouldn't think of
Yeah,
it as
in its purest form, it's super explosive.
really.
Yeah, like you need so many parts. Like it's impossible to get now. That's why they did it in Australia. I think that was like 20 years, at least 20 years ago, that happened. Yeah, so they were banned in the United States because of there was no room to run them, more
Yeah.
or less. Also, fun fact: once you light them, you can't shut them off.
It just needs to
they
burn
run
out?
until they burn out of fuel.
Jesus.
So if you miscalculate that, it's going to keep going until it runs out of fuel.
Is that just like a characteristic of hydrogen peroxide? There is no way
That's
to
the
extinguish.
hydrogen peroxide rocket is once you light it, there is no off button on it. You can't shut the fuel off. There's nothing.
Yeah,
It's wild.
that's got to be so much fun. Like I mean, I doubt they had like a Christmas tree in that race, but like,
Oh, they
or
did.
when, really?
Yeah.
They ran it like on a track?
Oh yeah. They did it in Australia actually.
See, to me, like that just sounds like outlaw shit out on the salt flats. Like,
Yeah, like you need to be somewhere in the desert just doing that because you don't need any real sort of traction
yeah.
because it's not wheel driven.
Oh, yeah.
It's thrust driven.
So at that point, the wheels are just there to hopefully.
Keep you in a straight line,
Yeah.
more or less. Yeah.
Now, is mentioning like being in a straight line, like the video you sent me where you like controlled that car because I mean, obviously the force of it is just.
Yeah, it's trying not to go straight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So is there like a different type of steering system? Is there a specific drag racing?
So there are, when you get up in the levels, there are the ratio of the steering boxes can change. So in the late 60s, early 70s, well, in beginning times, top fuel dragsters were front engine.
All right.
The engine wasn't behind you; it was in front of you, and then you sat behind the engine and transmission, and the rear wheels would be like right here.
All right.
So you would be in the car, and the rear wheels would be about level with your elbows. You're sitting over the rear differential, like your legs are over it,
Yeah.
over the axle tubes, transmissions in your nuts.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and they were using mostly factory parts at that time,
Yeah.
making a couple thousand horsepower back then. And they just got dangerous. They were blowing apart. A guy by the name of Don Garlitz lost half of his foot. He had a transmission explosion, I believe it was. And the parts just came out, cut half of his foot off. And people had been trying to build a rear engine car before that, and they kept crashing.
Because so the big difference there then is pushing versus pulling, right?
More or less, yeah.
So when you're in a front engine car, it's pulling you. So you don't have to worry about the traction on the back tires as much.
Well, all that was still a very big issue. But they were easier to drive, the front engine cars.
Oh,
The rear engine
because-
cars were crashing very consistently. Nobody could figure out how to make it work. And while he was in the hospital with his foot issue, he realized that the steering ratio was just too fast on all the rear engine cars. And that's why everybody crashed them. Because as soon as you turn the steering wheel a little bit, you're in the wall.
Yeah.
So he built one with a slower steering rack and then transformed the whole sport, more or less.
Wow. So like, again, it's the case of injuries driving,
Yes.
the technology.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks it's got to go that way. But
Yeah, you lost half a foot, but you figured it out for everybody else. You saved a bunch of people's lives.
yeah.
So
So it's almost worth it. Thank you for your half a foot.
yeah, but then like there are still front engine cars out there now.
Is that a specific category
Yeah,
also?
they run the nostalgia events,
Uh,
stuff like that. My brother actually had one for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only drove it a couple times. It's in Utah now.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, so do cars kind of get passed around a lot? Like, is there
yeah, yeah. There's
like a trading scene
yeah,
kind of?
there definitely is. My brother's very big into that. He's on like 8 or 9 different race cars. He's got 2 right now. Like he just picked another one up the other day. He traded like a street car that he had for another race car. He's got he built a car that's in Switzerland now.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a car that he bought from Michigan, came here, had it for a little while, redid it, and it's in Utah now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there like you ever see those dollar bills where it's like
Yeah.
track this online?
Yeah.
Like, do you like people like keep in contact or
Yeah,
like,
there's like a lot of people are very big into the history of where your car came from, who built it, where it went, what it's done, you know.
that's
There-
so rad.
Yeah, there's like online databases and stuff. It's cool. Yeah, like so the blue car that my brother has was built in Virginia in the late 80s, early 90s. Like we knew the car from the time we were children. And then it got bounced around a little bit, wound up in Maryland. He bought it, redid it. He's got it now. My father's car, the beige car, was a friend of his car from when he was a kid, just a regular car. And he turned it into a race car when I was like 10, not even. And he's had it since then.
Yeah. At that point, it's almost the parts have to have been turned over. It's almost like
Oh, yeah.
not even that car anymore, but it's still like the frame.
Just at this point in time, it's the roof and the doors are from that car. Like in like the front firewall. But the main body shell is that car.
Yeah.
But the chassis is different. The suspension's different. It's had 10, 15 motors in it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's
over
almost
time.
it's almost like a person growing up, going through all the different life experiences. It's still the same person, but it's kind of a different person.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a very different person at
Yeah.
this point in its life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where do you see the sport going? I mean, is there going to be a constant progression, or do you think that cars kind of eventually will, like, there will be a perfect dragster?
So they can always be better
Yeah.
in theory.
All right.
In theory. The problem they're running into now is it costs so much money to run those top level cars, the top fuel cars. They're getting sponsorships. And then like COVID shut down a lot of the big events. They normally have like 23 national events. They only ran like 18 last year. So now your sponsors that paid you for that exposure aren't getting the exposure they paid you for. So that's caused a pretty big problem.
Yeah. So then them putting money into you is not a worthwhile.
Yeah. So the top level is kind of in turmoil right now. But like grassroots stuff, like just guys going racing, is actually doing pretty good right now. You know?
Yeah.
There's all that like outlaw. So like Pro Modified is a class that runs all over the world. Basically, cars with doors that kind of look like the car that they once were. That make a ton of power. They go 560s, 570s in the quarter mile at like 230, 240 miles an hour. That's huge right now, worldwide.
Yeah.
So that's lower level, but still very serious racing, and it's growing while the stuff at the top is kind of declining.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That's cool. So it's becoming more of a personal
coming back to the
thing.
people.
Yeah. I think I didn't know how, like you saying, like it's like a family thing for you.
Yeah.
Like I would have not never thought of that, but I wouldn't have known that if you didn't tell me that. That it's
Yeah.
like very grassroots about the people. Like especially when you go to one of these things, it's almost like a music festival where like there's a sense of community and
Oh yeah. I have, we've loaned parts to the guy that we were going to race. Like help them work on their car.
Yeah.
You know, I had to race a guy in a final round a couple years ago, and he hurt his car in the round before, and I gave him the time to. I didn't have to. I could have went up, made a solo run, won the race just by myself, but I'll wait for you.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to win like that.
Yeah.
And most people are like that, where they will just sit and wait. If we get up to the starting line and your car won't start, I'm not the one that's going to put you on a timer the track is, because they got to get through the program.
Yeah.
I'll sit here for an hour. I'll back the car off and go put it back over there and let you figure it out. You know, get it together. But if the track wants to run,
Yeah.
then we got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
That's the thing. The organization too on those tracks is impressive, because like the one thing that I do remember about going to the track and was everything, like all the steps were controlled, like from registering to lining up to, like we weren't like picking who we were going against or anything like that, but like everything was so, it was just a smooth flow. It was almost as if we drove in and then went around the snake and then we're at the line.
Yep.
I think I remember getting out somewhere in the snake point and getting into somebody else's car.
Yeah, probably in the staging lanes, which is where everybody lines up before you actually go out.
Yeah.
But everything's controlled. At a good race, everything's on a schedule. You know, I've been to tracks where like they take an hour lunch break in the middle of the day, and we're all sitting like, "What are we doing here?"
Just hanging out.
Yeah, like all right, it's 100 degrees. I understand. Wouldn't you rather get through the day?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You're gonna go sit in the air conditioning for an hour and eat lunch while we all sit in our trailers. Like, can we get this over with?
Yeah.
You know, I've definitely been at the track on days and been like, I don't want to be here. I like, you get there and you're like, this is a terrible idea. It's South Carolina in July. It's 106, 95% humidity. Like, I just want it to get dark or I want to go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I know people that have lost first round on purpose just to be like, I'm done today.
Yeah, like yellow, green. All right, now let off the clutch.
Yeah. Or they just leave as soon as they, like, because if you leave early, you lose.
Oh, yeah.
That's called the red light comes on. You red light, you lose.
Yeah.
So if you leave early, you go home early.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
lost and like if you red light by like 1,000th or 3,000ths of a second, like that ends your day.
Oh man.
You left 3,000ths too early.
And so early would be before green, right?
Yeah.
So then that timing of
Yeah,
yellow.
you saw
clutch.
yellow and you reacted too quickly. Yeah. So before the LED bulbs, when they were regular incandescent bulbs, if you were good enough, you could watch the phases of the light coming on as it like powered on and then dimmed, especially on the bracket racing when they go the 3 lights in a row where it goes ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
You could watch them go on and come off and go on and come off and go. And then when it started to come on, you could leave.
So you would. It's almost like if you had good eyesight, before.
Oh, yeah.
And I never would have thought there was so much physicality and I don't know what not sportsmanship, but I can't think of the word, but like just being a person and an athlete in it.
Yeah. I mean, you can be very out of shape and do it. It's like mental athleticism.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Up until a certain point. Like if you're driving something that's actually very fast, you got to be in shape.
Yeah.
Because it'll take your breath away when you leave, and then you're just going to pass out.
Gs, yeah. Is there, like when you're in a jet, I'm not sure what G's those are, but they have the hook breathing, the do you have to breathe different with that kind of force?
I've never experienced it. I would imagine that you have to.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to make sure that, are you exhaling before you leave? Because it's only going to be 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You inhale, you take a breath so that your lungs are full and you got oxygen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know the first thing. If they started that car and I was in it, I would be like, fuck this, dude. I didn't get ready for this.
Yeah.
In theory, you're supposed to work your way up to that. You start out in slower cars and slower classes and work your way up. There are people that just get in them, that have too much money,
Yeah,
or their dad has too much money, and they typically, You know, I've seen people not do well at all, like on a national stage, and then just have to step back down
Yeah.
because they couldn't do it.
Yeah, because again, it's a 10,000 hours. I feel like if you don't have the passion, if you just have the money,
Yeah.
that's not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
Really, like, it's almost everything where, yeah, you can buy your way into something,
Yeah.
but in order to be good at it, you need passion.
Yeah. And you need some sort of skill.
Yeah.
If you're not born with it, you have to be willing to work to have the skill,
Yeah.
you know? And it's, like you said, seat time.
Yeah.
The more runs you get in a car, the better you're going to be in it, the more comfortable you're going to be in it. That's why my father doesn't need the shift lighter. He knows that's his car. He's had it for 25 years,
Yeah.
you know?
You can do it in his sleep.
Yeah. He just knows. He could not do it for 2 years, get back in it, and it's just muscle memory. Everything works.
Yeah.
I get in it, and I'm like, all right, okay.
Yeah,
Belts are tight. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we can go. Take my personal inventory. Don't fuck this up. Don't break anything. You know. And then typically I break shit.
Would you recommend that everybody at some point at least go to a drag race, if not,
Yeah. I mean, it's
drag race themselves?
Yeah, it's easy enough to do it yourself. That, like, I don't know if everyone should do it.
Yeah.
Like, some people just shouldn't. Some people just shouldn't drive. But yeah, it's a cool thing to do. It's a good thing if you got kids or you want to just go hang out and drink beer and one night. It's a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it.
All right. I want to plug your podcast, Better Off Drunk.
Yes.
You and Mike Loro.
Thank you.
I love the idea of just comedians playing drinking games.
Yeah, we're having fun with it. We're a couple episodes, as you would expect. We're a couple episodes in. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah.
There's a visual element, so it's probably better on YouTube.
Yeah.
But we're having fun.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I love it. Anything else you want to plug? You got going on?
I got nothing going on, man.
Yeah.
I thank you for doing this.
No, thank you for coming out again. I appreciate it. I love hearing something that people are passionate about.
Yeah.
That's really why I'm doing it.
It's a tremendous idea. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Again, go check them out. I'm going to look into the camera for it. Better Off Drunk on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, the whole nine. I'll plug the links. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Play us out, Tim. Tim's kinda dumb. Let's help him get smart. It's time to teach Tim stuff.
Nice.